days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time, and the 49ers are basically making a slew of moves, tryouts, workouts. They are all about it in Santa Clara right now. There's flux, and they are doing all kinds of stuff, and we're about to get into it. There's a lot of conversation that needs to happen.
There is, man. It's the $1 million moves, literal $1 million moves.
Yeah.
Making lots of moves, bringing in lots of guys, signing guys to the roster, signing guys to the practice squad, releasing guys. Just everything that your heart could desire. So Cutback crew, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell. And Ant, let's dive into the roster moves. Give the Cutback crew and the faithful a little taste of what the 49ers are doing so far. Did we get a kicker?
We did get a kicker.
Oh my.
So they kept it on the the DL, and they went Slye, and they signed Joey Slye. I didn't see this one coming, but Joey Slye is going to be the kicker for the 49ers. The corresponding move is they put Robbie Gould on the IR. With Slye now, he was playing for Houston Texans early on in the year, and he got released September 30th. But he was doing pretty good. He had missed one extra point. I think he was 7 of 8 from extra points, 4 or 5 from field goals, 79% career average kicking field goals. Not bad, not terrible. So he's going to be holding it down throughout the bye week, and of course against the Cardinals and the Colts, because then we'll get Robbie Gould.
Hopefully that's the case. Slye was one that was a name that was on a list that we could have talked about the other day, and didn't because of that 79% career number. I was like, it doesn't make a lot of sense right now. There's some guys who got better percentages. Maybe they'll go with the safe route. They're going with the guy who's been kicking and was just on a roster. Hopefully that pans out for us.
Yeah, hopefully. I'm guessing he's a better option than Mitch Wisnowski. And they brought him in for a workout, and he won the job, so he's who we're going to go with. I think that we're feeling pretty comfortable with him 45 yards in, so the idea is going to be, no matter who's the quarterback, move the ball and get us in position to score touchdowns, and if you don't, make sure you're close enough where this guy can be able to execute and convert those field goal opportunities.
Extremely important.
Yes.
Converting those field goal opportunities, extremely important. The All-22 film that we just broke down, right, that one drive where we get the Wisnowski miss, heartbreaking, sucks for the 49ers. It changed some of the momentum. It also just changed some of the play calling late when you got into that red zone area.
Yeah, it did.
Or got close to it anyway.
Yeah, you needed to convert touchdowns, and you wouldn't be able to rely on kicking a field goal. And it does change how you attack and how you approach offense.
That's for sure. That is for sure, Ant. That is for sure. Look, they also made some other roster moves, and they're also bringing in some other guys, as well as signing some other guys. So we have some practice squad signings we got to talk about. First and foremost, they bring in linebacker Tyrell Adams. They re-signed tight end Jordan Matthews, and wide receiver Connor Weddington, all signed to the practice squad. The corresponding moves, right? Linebacker Curtis Bolton, running back Kerryon Johnson, running back Chris Thompson, all released from the practice squad. So a lot of things happening there, and it tells a lot about where this team's at and what they're looking for.
Yeah, it tells us that more than likely Elijah Mitchell is going to be ready to go in this football game. They feel comfortable with Jaquez Patrick being that other option and helping the football team until they get these other running backs back.
Mm-hmm.
So the running back position is finally stabilized. It's finally at least enough comfort where they don't have to have extra players on the practice squad, and we don't have to worry about guys learning this offense. So that's a good sign there. And then second off, they just continue to make moves as far as linebacker. They have rotated through linebackers like crazy on this practice squad. They're bringing them in. They're taking a look at them. They're seeing how they develop. And then they're shipping them on and bringing on another guy. And Tyrell Adams is the most recent one. Played a lot of football. Not a lot to write home about as far as stats or anything like that. Interesting move overall. I think the interesting name from those three, well, of course, Jordan Matthews is back. It was inevitable, right? Dante Johnson and Jordan Matthews need to be on this roster.
Some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, be no mistake. Jordan Matthews goes away. 49ers start losing. Jordan Matthews is back, ladies and gentlemen. Let the winning commence. But wide receiver Connor Weddington, 6'1", 195-pound guy out of Stanford.
Yep.
Very athletic. I think the interesting part about him was the way when they were talking about him in the draft profile was very fast and athletic, not a great route runner. Seems to be a 49ers go-to for wide receivers. But the key was the explosive returner. So maybe the 49ers are starting to look for another returner to have the issues that they had this week in the return game. And also you had a punt return where Brandon Ayuk got his helmet detached from his head. So maybe they're looking at this as an avenue where they need to start working out extra guys just in case they need to make a move at the return.
And look, we're not just basing this off of this guy's name and a draft profile, right? You have to factor in all of these things that are going on. Number one, first and foremost, the Ayuk situation where he gets his head almost taken clean off. Mm-hmm. You don't want to put a guy that's out there in those types of situations. Right. That's supposed to be an important, integral part of your offense. That's number one. Number two, on the drive subsequent to that, there's a situation on a third down scenario in which the 49ers run out a package that doesn't include Brandon Ayuk in a situation where Trent Sherfield doesn't win a matchup and Mohamed Sanu doesn't win a matchup. That ideally you'd like Ayuk out there trying to win a matchup, and it's possibly because he took that shot and was, getting cleared for a freaking concussion and wasn't done quite yet with that protocol to make sure that he was good to go and ready to go back on the field. So you don't want him missing snaps offensively, especially if you don't have to have him missing snaps offensively, which makes sense as to why they're doing this. Obviously, you have the Trenton Cannon fumble as well. That puts you in a bad spot. And they turned immediately to Deebo Samuel to fulfill that role. You definitely don't want your number one and number two wide receivers out there returning kicks and punts.
I like the way you did that, number one and number two.
I mean, let's be real here. Deebo Samuel right now is number one. Not even close.
Another tool in the toy box.
You are not wrong. It is a tool in the toy box. It just so happens that he's the first tool that Kyle Shanahan likes to pull out and do stuff with first and scheme. He's a schemer with Deebo Samuel first and then everyone else second. Look, that's not the only thing, though. That's not the only name that they brought in.
No, not even close.
So they worked out or visited with other players as well, including two wide receivers, Austin Mack and Isaiah Wright. Now, Austin Mack has no kick return experience, but Isaiah Wright does. 6'2 guy, 220, return kicks at Temple. So you and I were talking about this a little bit pre-show. They're definitely trying to address kick return. That's what it feels like, the return game itself. But these guys are all being signed to the practice squad. Does this mean that they're about to pull up a Travis Benjamin potentially from the practice squad, activate him on the roster, and let him take over kick return and punt return duties?
I don't know. I really don't, because they've been rolling pretty good with these five guys that they have.
True.
And then they've been using these other guys as depth pieces, if they need them. But filling the practice squad with guys who can return, maybe they're taking a look at it just in case they need to elevate one of these guys. It could also be that they're going to be playing a lot of taller receivers this year, and this week, and they want to bring in more guys.
Also true.
I honestly don't know exactly what their angle is on this, but it is interesting. The one thing I will say is every receiver they've brought in, probably over the last few weeks, has been somebody that's at least 6'1" or bigger. So they're definitely going for a bigger receiver. Most of them are well over 200 pounds.
Yes.
These two individuals, Mack and Wright, that we're talking about, are 6'2", 215, and 6'2", 220.
Big.
They're not small guys. Wright was the guy that had the better stats, right? For the Washington football team, he had 23 catches, 197 yards. That's pretty good performance for a guy who was a rookie last year.
I think it's like 7.3 yards per catch.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So, you have a guy that it's at least proven that he can do it in the NFL. So I think he's the more proven commodity. But I think it's interesting that they're bringing these guys in and working them out. And you do wonder how much that has to go with the return game, because it makes you question why Travis Benjamin isn't available. Now, after watching a little bit of the game film, Travis Benjamin could have taken the top off the defense against Seattle. There were opportunities for him to beat the defensive end that plays safety for them down the field. And there are opportunities to win down the field consistently like that. With Trey Lance supposedly being quarterback, or maybe being quarterback, it might be not a bad idea to have a player that could take the top off like that. So I wonder when we're going to see Travis Benjamin. If we see Travis Benjamin, this could be a week for it. It's something that's interesting to see, because we haven't seen him yet, and I did think we were going to see him at some point.
And there's certain packages on the field right now where the safeties do not have any respect for certain receivers on the field and not showing help over the field, and that allows them to execute that muck-it-up style, right? And really trying to play those crossing routes on those middle crossers or guys sitting in zones. So bringing in a guy like Travis Benjamin can make them have to show that respect. Because while, people, I've heard a lot of 49ers fans, they're just taking away the middle because that's the only place Jimmy can throw. Man, when Brandon Ayuk is on the outside, they are not taking away the middle of the field. When Brandon Ayuk is on the outside running a deep corner route, deep post, vertical seam, there's help over the top typically. There's someone there. They know who the threats are over the middle of the field, deep down the sideline. They know who those threats are. When certain personnel and packages go out there, though, they're basically daring the 49ers to beat them over the top with those guys. And right now, the 49ers aren't even putting those guys in those positions currently. But, having a guy like Travis Benjamin you can rotate in there may make teams think twice about something like that.
Yeah, you're right, because when Mohamed Sanu, Juwan Jennings are out on the outside, even Trent Sherfield, they're going one-on-one with them. They're, okay, these guys we're going one-on-one with Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. They will put a safety over the top. There's one play in particular we broke down in the All-22 of those two on a play action running, a combination route where Brandon Ayuk runs the deep corner and Ayuk flattens out underneath. And it really does influence the safety. He goes with Ayuk over the top, tries to take away the deep route, and Deebo's wide open underneath. It's a great concept and a great route, and two guys out in routes on that play, yet is very successful. So, right now the 49ers, they're struggling a little bit with some of the deeper guys on their roster. Jennings and Mohamed Sanu are operating very well over the middle and making those plays, and they're very good in the run game. But where they're having a little bit of struggle, I think, is with Trent Sherfield, because he should be winning one-on-one battles as that third wide receiver. But so far, he's not doing that in these recent games, and maybe that's why he didn't play so much a couple weeks ago against Green Bay.
Possibly.
So it is interesting how they're going to be handling it. The one thing that Trent Sherfield does still, though, fantastically, special teams.
Oh, man.
Oh, he is like, game-changing special teams type talent. He's going to make some plays this year that are going to, help flip the field for the 49ers and all kinds of stuff. So, but yeah, you're right. It's going to be interesting how they sign these guys and how they constitute it. You wonder when they're going to open the practice window for Jalen Hurd, when he's going to come back, because you would like to see somebody that's dynamic that way that could kind of change the game, because Mohamed Sanu, they're not running fly sweeps with him. Right now, they're not doing any of that stuff with Trent Sherfield or Juwan Jennings, so they need somebody else that can add a different element to this offense.
I had heard some rumors that it was going to be this week 5, but I haven't seen anything, and nothing has been officially stated yet. So it's still just a wait and sort of see. I would be shocked if it was this week, unless they felt he was 100% ready to go and could step in and insert himself into the offense and play a role. I think they would just hold off and wait till the bye week, maybe activate his practice window around that time and give him the bye week to get a little bit of stuff in. Week 7 to get himself even closer to being ready, and then you roll with him then.
Yeah, this might be the week, though, in my opinion, because, number one, you need him. Number two, the opportunity to get him out there where he'll have a full week off after that if you needed to, because of the bye week. You can let him have a full week off, and then the next week bring him back and work him back for the Colts. It might be the best way to kind of, figure that out. So we'll see how they operate and how they handle it.
It would be really good too, right? Because Arizona has no film of this guy in terms of how you want to use him within the offense, and you can do a bunch of different creative things and really put it out there.
Yeah, and that way you don't lose when Deebo's out, because there are moments when Deebo's out and you can't do the things that you want to do with Deebo. You can do those things with Jalen Hurd, not to the level. Now, don't get me wrong, not to the level of Deebo. Deebo is operating at a great level right now. He's one of the best wide receivers in the football league. He's proven it right now. And I'm just, this guy's upward. He's just doing it all in a big way.
Trajectory is sky high.
Yeah, it's just somebody that has a similar skill set that could maybe take a little bit of the weight and load off, but also put a little bit more pressure on the defense to locate him and know where he is at all times.
Another opportunity, another time during that All-22 film, right, where we saw a crucial third down situation for the 49ers. No Ayuk on the field, no Deebo Samuel on the field, and guess what, folks?
No one open.
Absolute blanket coverage everywhere. Not a single soul or shred of a guy open in space. Those types of things you can't have as a coaching staff. You don't want that with your personnel and your packages. Hurd can hopefully help that out, but it also puts now the pressure on the rest of this wide receiving core. Ayuk is winning. Deebo, we all know who Deebo is winning. Deebo is 100% winning, and Kittle is winning, but Kittle is also dealing with the calf stuff right now, which means he's going to have times where he operates well, and there's going to be times where he just doesn't win because he's not going to be as explosive as you want him to be.
Well, in that set, too, that you talked about, Jamal Adams closed on George Kittle.
They bracketed that middle of the field.
Yeah, they went after him because, they're not worried about everyone else. Oh, you're going to beat us with Juwan Jennings and Mohamed Sanu and Trent Sherfield? Do it. And if you do, congratulations. That's what you're supposed to do. 49ers weren't able to do that. So there's going to be times where right now with a personnel grouping, where Kyle Shanahan's looking around and, everyone does this as a coach. Like, wait, I don't have my top two guys. Okay, we got to roll with it. We got to try to manufacture and get someone open. And you're hoping that, George Kittle can win. But if he's going to be doubled up, it's hard for him to win. But usually when George Kittle's catching the ball, there's multiple people around him, especially when Ayuk and Deebo are around the field.
You are wrong, Ant. Yeah. You are not wrong at all whatsoever. They also brought in a couple other people, worked out or visited with them. They didn't specify which of which for these two. One of the names, a very familiar name, and the other name, an interesting name, Ant, an interesting guy. The first one was Tony Jefferson. They brought him back in for probably, I imagine, a little bit of a workout / visit. And I'm assuming this was probably a visit because I don't know how you would work this guy out other than watch him long snap. But they brought in long snapper Garrison Sanborn. That's interesting.
Smart. You're trying out kickers. So you bring in Garrison Sanborn to do the long snapping. So your long snapper doesn't have to worry about it. You take a look at Sanborn, see where he's at. It's a kill two birds with one stone situation. You're working out kickers. You don't need to bring in your long snapper, and you can let this guy work it.
Fair.
And that way, if there's something ever happens, you know what Sanborn can do. As far as Tony Jefferson, this is the second guy now that the 49ers had that got injured in training camp that they've reached an injury settlement with that they're now bringing back to take a look at. These guys understand the system the defense wants to run. They can operate at a high level in the system. Jefferson looked good in training camp the days he was actually practicing.
Mm-hmm.
So him and Kendricks make a lot of sense as far as bringing them in as more depth and a veteran the veteran experience that they have. They can do all kinds of cool things. The fun thing with Jefferson, we've talked a little bit about this. The 49ers are struggling right now with Marcel Harris in coverage. Tony Jefferson is an improvement to that. If they wanted to go with a hybrid role where they put him in that type of situation, he could do it. We talked about on the All-22 film, maybe this is the time where Jimmy Ward is going to go to the slot in a dime-type setting, and you're going to bring in an extra safety. Those are also opportunities that the 49ers could take advantage of. Against Arizona, you definitely have to have all secondary, all hands on deck because they have one heck of a wide receiver core.
You can say that again, man. You can say that again, indeed. And Marcel Harris, he's struggling. He's struggling in the base sets, whether that's run, whether that's coverage in space. He's struggling a little bit. And so addressing that linebacker room, right, is going to be key, or bringing in a guy like Tony Jefferson and maybe rolling yourself into a more nickel look more times than not. That's something we've seen a few teams do on film, including the Minnesota Vikings against Seattle in the All-22 film preview we did. There was a lot of nickel there for the Minnesota Vikings. Even in situations where they did go those 22 personnel looks, they didn't go too many of the 21 personnel looks, or the 12 personnel looks. But they did have them at times, and they would still roll that nickel package out there, partially because Anthony Barr was out and not in the game and available and healthy for them. But that was one of the things that they dealt with, and one of the ways that they adjusted to that. So definitely Tony Jefferson, an interesting name. But there's another interesting name, Ant. In a surprise move, the Dallas Cowboys decided to, we call him Jaylon Smith, but some people would refer to him as Jaylon Smith. They released this linebacker. This guy was a Pro Bowler in 2019.
This is a surprising move because Jaylon Smith is one of those guys that had top 5 elite talent coming, was going to come out of the draft and be one of those guys, and then suffers the knee injury. Dallas takes a chance on him, works with him, gets him up to speed, gets him to the level that he needs to get to, signs him to the big contract, and then cuts him now. And now they're going to eat all that. And I know they got Micah Parsons and all that, but I'm really surprised that they're eating this contract. I mean, they're going to have $16 million in dead money next year. I don't know what they're doing here, but this is a very talented football player. I fully expect 31 other teams to call. I mean,
correct.
That is how talented this guy is. Now, he's had his struggles a little bit, but, I mean, he's a tackling machine. This guy gets after it. He makes tackles. He's a run stopper. So if you're talking about a guy that can play in your base 4-3 defense, this is the guy that can do it. He's an elite level of athlete, smart, instinctive player. I don't see why anyone wouldn't want this guy on the football team. I'm sure the 49ers call. I just don't know how much money it's going to cost because, I mean, he is getting a lot of money from Dallas, but we'll see how much money he wants to stack on top of that.
That's the only good news, is that he's getting a lot of money from Dallas, and you may be able to short-term get a little something and maybe throw a back-end incentive where he gets a little bit more money down the line in there. But they need to make this call. It just makes sense. This is a surefire tackler, like you talked about already.
Yeah.
All right. This guy doesn't miss tackles. Faithful cutback crew. His worst season was his rookie year, 9% missed tackle rate. After that, it steadily declined, 7.8, 5.5. He was only at 5.3 this year. His problem is coverage. That's where he has his biggest issue, his biggest concern in space is coverage. But again, if you're able to get this guy in to fulfill the Azeez Al-Shaair role, you're not going to have him, hopefully, in many coverage situations with this group. And it's a short-term good solution. It also elevates this linebacker room because it makes everyone have to step up their game, because once Greenlaw gets back, right, Shaair is going to be fighting for field position. He's done a lot of great things so far. But like you said, this is an elite talent. This is a guy who's got a lot of talent. He's just a few years removed from a Pro Bowl and really wasn't having a bad year. He really really wasn't. This year he wasn't having a bad year from the looks of it. I mean, in two of Dallas's 4 games, their defense steps up and plays really good football. Week 2 against the Chargers, which was a big win for them, especially since we saw what the Chargers did to the Kansas City Chiefs and what they just did to the Las Vegas Raiders. Almost called them Oakland. Those 2 games, though, against the Chargers and against Philadelphia, Dallas's defense only gives up 2 touchdowns and 3 touchdowns, respectively, in each of those games. Every game outside of that, it's been 28 plus. That Cowboys defense, when he's on the field 70-80% of the snaps, they're playing a little bit more successfully. When he's not on the field, week 1, 25%. Week 2, only 40%, less than half the snaps. That defense tends to struggle. I understand he's not great in coverage. And in fact, it's bad enough that his completion percentages is typically in the 70s, low to mid 70% completion rate against him in space, but he doesn't miss tackles. This is a guy who had 154 last year.
Well, that's why you got to be careful about the completion percentage, because is he tackling those guys as soon as they make the catch?
As soon as they make the catch? I would imagine so. Yards per completion, 9.8. The bad year was last year in 2020. It was 10.4. So that's not great, but yards per target is under 7.5. Okay. So everything is pretty interior, nothing deep down the field. He's just giving up a lot of that stuff. But this is a guy also that's been really good with blitzes. They've blitzed him a lot. He's a lot of sacks, a lot of hurries, a lot of quarterback hits. Just kind of dynamic. I mean, you would imagine this would be a piece that DeMeco Ryans could do a lot of good stuff with.
I would say that talent-wise, you're intrigued by 100%.
Absolutely.
The question is, do the 49ers feel that they are ready to move on from Azeez? Because, I mean, you don't have to move on for him, but you're going to have to put him on the bench. And that's a big change because Azeez has been playing very well.
Extremely well.
So you wonder if the 49ers look at it and say, like, I don't know if financially this is a good investment for us because we already have Azeez. Dre's coming back. We can sign Kendricks to a cheaper deal and just go that route. Your first instinct is, no, we need to sign this guy today because he's a very impact player that can add to the roster and make, a lot of big plays for a football team. So I don't know. I think this is a big question. We're going to get an idea of how John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan and DeMeco Ryans feel about this defense and linebacker core. When they feel Dre Greenlaw is going to come back, because if Dre Greenlaw is coming back right after the bye, then you're definitely not, really considering a move like this. But if he's going to come back a little bit longer, maybe you do think about bringing someone in. And it is all about making your roster better. So if you can bring Jaylon Smith in and he's the starter and Azeez is coming off the bench and you feel like that is a better 4-man rotation than what you have currently, then you go ahead and do it. But yeah, he's a big-time player, and I think everyone is going to be investigating this and trying to bring him in because he's a very talented guy, and everyone's scratching their head wondering what Dallas is doing.
I know I am. I know I am. When I heard that, I was like, oh, he must be playing really bad then, if that's the case. And we talked to our Cowboys insider. If you guys remember Dave from last year, we brought him on for the Niners-Cowboys game. Dave was talking about how he's been playing great, and he's looked great, and he's looked fine. He hasn't really seen any issue, and this is just like kind of out of left field for him. He said he's been hearing he was in the doghouse. My word almighty, that's a mighty quick doghouse you got over there, Dallas.
Yeah.
At least Kyle Shanahan makes him wait a year before he gets rid of him. He'll keep a guy in the doghouse for a year.
And usually gets rid of them before they get the big extension, during their rookie contract.
True. And
that is kind of interesting.
That's accurate. It's confused. It's confoozling. I'm all confoozled, and I don't understand it. I don't understand the move. Cowboys, you do you. You're gonna always cowboy it up. Let's hope this doesn't turn around and bite them in the butt.
Yeah, I doubt anyone claims him, right? No one's gonna want to claim him and pick up that money.
That's a lot of money.
So he's gonna hit the free agent market, and we'll see who goes after him. There are teams out there that still have a lot of money. Maybe somebody's gonna throw a big money contract after him.
Could.
And hope to keep him in their building for many years to come. But I'm sure a lot of contenders are going to reach out. I know Seattle will. They've been working out, linebackers off and on, so they'll be looking at him as well.
God, don't let that happen.
Oh, Jets as well. Jets have been looking for a linebacker.
Man, Robert Saleh would jump at that.
Yeah.
Big time.
So we'll see.
Especially since he used to play middle linebacker. You can have him step in as well and move C.J. Mosley to the outside because he does a lot of good things.
I don't know, though. Mosley lost weight.
It's very true. It's very true. Ram, appreciate you updating on the membership, my guy. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. This is nuts, though, Ant. This is nuts. It's a nuts move. It opens the door for a lot of possibilities for a lot of teams in the NFL, but the 49ers especially. They need to do something about this package, right? When teams decide to go 2 tight ends right now, the Niners, if they try and roll with that base 4-3, there's some issues. There's some problems. And it's not Azeez Al-Shaair. It's definitely not Fred Warner. it's definitely Marcel Harris. And this was something that we thought could happen. And he wasn't looking terrible in coverage early in the year, but as teams have gotten more dynamic with their schemes, as they've started to realize how hard he sells out and commits to runs, play actions, and things of that nature, becoming more and more effective against Marcel.
What happened to him too is D'Amico Ryans wants to run man coverage against on third down, and Marcel Harris, when there's two tight ends, he's the base 4-3 outside linebacker, and his job is to cover a tight end usually. And unfortunately, he's not being able to cover that tight end. He's getting caught with his eyes in the backfield. When you're in man coverage, you can't have your eyes in the backfield. You have your eyes on the man, and that's what he's getting caught up with. There's some technique issues and things that he's struggling with. So yeah, they need an improvement there. We've already said that if that was one of the other guys, we'd be okay. But Azeez also was losing running backs and stuff in this game when he had man responsibility. So this is something the linebacker crew needs to work on overall. So maybe bringing in another guy that is really good at deciphering what is going on could impact this football team. We know once Dre Greenlaw gets back, he will. But right now, Dre's not back. So maybe it's bring in a safety in the meantime. Bring in a safety like Tony Jefferson.
Possibly.
Let him play in the box. He's a very good run stopper who can play up there, but also better in coverage than Marcel Harris. Marcel Harris' coverage skills has always been a weakness.
Accurate.
So I think maybe you go that. The only other route you could possibly go with is once Norman's back, kick Kirkpatrick inside on these plays.
Possible.
And see how he can do against the run. But it's a lot harder for a corner on the run fits.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
It's definitely a lot harder on the run fits. This is going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting how they just decide to address and attack these things going forward, because they need to. They need to do something about this. This has been a problem, and you're going to be facing a team this week, fortunately, and that isn't going to run very many two tight end sets, although we have seen them do it on occasion.
Yeah.
Jacksonville, very early on, they did, and they didn't have a lot of success. They didn't get their success until they went to their 3-4 wide receiver sets. They do have a fairly talented tight end there in Max Williams. He's not terrible. He can serviceable in space. He's a good route runner. He knows how to sit down. He can exploit mismatches if they're there. But this isn't a Kittle. This isn't a Travis Kelce situation there. He has his limitations as well. Their strength is with the wide receiving core and the guys they have. AJ Green looks like he's resurging and becoming, not the AJ Green of old, but that hybrid between what the shell of himself we saw in Cincinnati towards the end and what he used to be.
Yeah, I think that they have a lot of talent in Arizona, especially at the receiver position. I'd be shocked if they're not 3 and 4 wide receivers the entire game, and just really spread the 49ers out and make these secondary guys beat them. The only thing that will change it is if this pass rush is able to get home. If the pass rush is able to get home early, that can change it. You bring guys in, have guys have to chip. All of those things are situations Arizona doesn't want to get in. Really what they want to do is get the ball in Kyler Murray's hands and get it out quick. They can do that a lot like the Green Bay Packers did. They'll have opportunities to have make plays down the field. But that is a kind of an instinctive thing that they're going to have to do. They're going to have to figure that out. I think Bosa and them have proven right now they can get home. So if you're going to try to stop those guys with 5, you're going to have a lot of problems. But they got Chase Edmonds that they can get the ball to too. He's looked pretty good, and Kyler's just got explosive ability with his legs. And if the 49ers attack him the wrong way and don't keep the integrity of their pass rush, he's going to find a lane and he's going to beat them with their legs. The only good news is the 49ers have played good against the Cardinals overall over the last couple of years. They've played pretty well against Kyler Murray. So they're going to have an opportunity to win this game. And that's all you're asking for when you're going in is an opportunity to win. I don't think it's anywhere doomsday. I think they can go in there and they can win this. Arizona, yes, they beat the Rams in a big way, but let's not forget that they struggled with Jacksonville for a little bit. So there is opportunities to win in certain areas of this game, and the 49ers just need to make sure they win it.
Absolutely. They need to make sure they win it. They need to take care of this. This is a huge week. Don't want to go 0-2 in the division. You want to get yourself above 500 heading into this bye week and giving yourself the momentum you need to carry you out the rest of the way, because you got the Colts after that. Isn't going to be necessarily a gimme walk up matchup. I know the Colts aren't playing well, but the more the Colts struggle, the more hungry they're going to be, and this is a team that does have a lot of talent. So the Niners need to put their best foot forward this week, really come out. D'Amico Ryans continue to scheme up what he's been scheming up, because on film it has been phenomenal the last few weeks. We said this about the Green Bay game. We were right, because he came out and had himself one heck of a game plan to start that game off early against Seattle. Continue that trend. Kyle Shanahan, continue to scheme up correctly, because I know people were frustrated, but he called himself one heck of a first half in this game against Seattle. Now it just comes down to execution.
Yeah, the first half of that game from Kyle Shanahan, he was putting his players in positions to be successful. They just weren't getting it done. And there's nothing he can do about that. All he can do is call the game that he needs to call and get guys there. They have to make the plays. And D'Amico Ryans and Kyle Shanahan in that first half of that Seattle game did everything they needed to do, put their team in a position to be successful in winning, and they just weren't. So they need to fix that. They need to get it together. These are professionals. We can't count on the coaching staff to lead them, all the way. They have to take up some of the mantle themselves. This is a work together situation. So these players need to respond in a big way, and they need to respond against Arizona. If they don't, the season's going to get a little bit more difficult. If they do, they're going to be right back in the thick of things, and that's what you want to be, is in the thick of things until you get to the playoffs. Then you can make something happen.
Get into the thick of it, 49ers. Into the thick of it. Into the thick of it. We want to hear from you, Cutback crew. Let us know down below right now how you felt about these roster moves galore. Roster moves everywhere. 49ers doing non-stop things. Are you excited about Slye? Are you excited about some of these other names they're bringing in? Or are you just sitting here going, who are all these folks? I don't know who any of these people are. We want to hear from you. Should we go get Jaylon Smith? Let us know in the comment section down below right now. And while you're commenting away, don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell as well. And make sure you head over to Patreon. Don't miss any of that All-22 film breakdown.
Yeah, this All-22 film breakdown was very good. I really enjoyed getting into it, breaking it down, because the 49ers did come out with a very strategic way of executing and going against the Seattle defense. They made the Seattle defense have to adjust on the fly, and even when they did adjust, the 49ers were ready to counter-adjust. It was a very good game plan. The 49ers schemed it up in a big way, and if you like watching that kind of stuff, hop over to Patreon and check it out. It was very good. And then leave in the comment section what you think about all this stuff. What you think about the 49ers against Arizona. I know it's early in the week, and we're just now starting to turn our attention. We're getting past the Seattle game and on to Arizona as the week goes on. But I am curious how everyone's feeling, how everyone's thinking. Now that we've kind of chilled from the instant reaction and everything, how everyone's feeling about this football team. 2-2 is definitely not the end of the world, but it's not where we want to be. But the only thing we can do now is win next week and make it 3-2, and I think everyone will feel more comfortable with that.
Niners are going to go in. They're going to beat Bangville. And they're going to beat Bangville. Go Niners, go. Go Niners, go. Cutback crew, we love y'all. Thank y'all for so much for all the support you give us. And until the next one, stay safe.
Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.